They always travel in trees.
Trees.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the key one of the key things when I find when my clients come and see me is that the body initially will be quite like it's got an armor on it. Again, the fascia, which covers all of the muscles, that's the first thing that tightens from any type of stress. So that's whether it's technical stress, so the fact of the Wi-Fi and the electromagnetic radiation that's surrounding us all the time, personal stress, people, just other people's energy in what's around us. So the fascia tightens in response to that, which over time creates that armor. So one of the first things when I first start working with people is we release that fascia so the body becomes softer and it opens up. And then that's when they then start to receive messages and understand, they start to feel the difference. Like one of my clients commented that in the time that she's been seeing me now, she now understands when something is asked of her that's not good for her, and she'll actually say no. Whereas before that, she was always a yes person. Everything she would say yes to. So once we released that initial armor that she'd gone into, this sort of frozen mode of always have to do this, I always have to do this, she's now understood, she can feel her body react to something and it's like, no, that's not good for me. And she's able to say no. So the body becomes, because when the body's in tune with nature and is in a nice harmonic space, it's sending us messages all the time of what's healthy for us, what's not healthy for us. But when that armor is there, we're not able to receive those messages. So the more I work with clients in breaking down that, and that armor can come from emotional stress, physical stress, mental stress, spiritual stress. It can come from all different avenues of their life. And it's very, very subtle in how it happens, but it just keeps accumulating like a drop in the bucket. So once you start peeling that away, people start becoming much more open and receptive. So their intuition starts to come into play, which is what you could say in a way for that client. It is that her intuition is now speaking to her and saying, well, no, that's actually not good for you, or it's not good for me. And so she can actually have clearer boundaries. Whereas a lot of people, when they have got all of that armor going on, they've lost their boundaries. It's like they always have to say yes. They don't see what's healthy for them, what's not, what isn't. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing to see, because you actually watch people soften. Because when that armor is on, it's like if you imagine the steel armor, it's very hard. So the facial expressions, the body is very rigid. It's because it's in protective mode all the time. So as you start to peel them off, the person becomes much softer. The relationship with their partner or their children or their family or different people becomes totally different. And they find that people just move out of their lives that weren't actually healthy for them. It's really interesting. Yeah. My upbringing was in the country, and so I grew up by the River Murray, where I spent a lot of time in nature. So when I needed to just be, when I could tell my body was feeling stressed or uptight, I would go for a swim, or I would go for a walk and go and sit by the river, or do something that was just in nature. Go and walk out and around the vineyard or the trees or whatever. So then when I came to urban living, I realised that that wasn't seen as a way of resetting the body and putting it back into its natural rhythm again. It was more, people would sit in front of the TV or sit in front of a computer or do something which is overstimulating it, instead of actually giving it that quiet time to come back into its natural rhythm and its cycle again. And also the fact of exposing the body to the different temperatures at that time as well. So instead of always being warm because it's winter, being out and allowing the body for the circulation to be stimulated, and which then is also boosting the immune system, because we're going out into that change of temperature and taking that on. The freshness, it's like plugs the body in to a socket of nature. It's what it's replugging it back into it, so it re-energizes it. It gives it a boost. And I found that from my time of growing up in the country, that was just there all the time. And then when I moved to urban living, it's like, now you actually have to see the quality of that, and you have to make the time for that. And so that was a big part of me learning that in urban living, and also then implementing that into my education with my clients, into how they didn't have that understanding because they hadn't been brought up with it. They hadn't had nature just at their back door like I'd been blessed with for all of my growing up years.
And it feels like that's a really more and more a big problem today when we look at sort of the damage of the land and more people growing up in urban environments. Where then do other aspects like not just being in urban environments but also hyper digital environments with lots of different forms of communication, and what does that have, what's that relationship for today for people in urban environments?
So it's actually become a really strong addiction in the fact of all of the IT and that type of thing. And so people aren't, they're not recognizing how much that's overstimulating them, and how much their bodies are being overloaded with information. So it's this constant in, but there's not this quiet time. There's not a time of just letting the body assimilate and digest what's come in from a day for them to be able to reset. So the more powerful it's becoming, the more almost like we can't live without it. It's like hear my clients even saying to me now in the fact that they can't believe how they can, first thing in the morning, they're up and they're checking their phones, and they're on their phone for at least an hour. Before they go to bed, they'll have to check their phone, and before they know it, they'll be scrolling through all these things for over an hour. Well, the blue light effect from being on phone, TV, computer actually overstimulates the brain, so that affects our quality of sleep when we go to bed. So we need to be aware of the fact of putting it into a time frame, like there being certain times as much as we possibly can, and giving the body quiet time so it can rest and restore and come back into that, come out of that fight and flight. That's the key thing I'm finding with the majority of my clients, is that big part of their sessions is resetting their bodies and bringing them back into the parasympathetic, so that the body can go back into rest and restore instead of fight and flight, which in the old days was running from an animal. You know, it's for your life. I'm running life or death. And so in that shuts the digestive system down. And so a lot of people's digestive systems are shut down because they're constantly running in fight and flight. So they then aren't able to assimilate and take up their nutrition correctly either, because the body's not in the space to do that. It's running from a tiger. It's running for your life. Digesting food isn't an important thing at that time.
Wow. Amazing. And what do you think is as a sort of final thought, what do you think are the best practices or best steps for anyone who aspires to a healthier body, mind, soul, and more well-being in their life, but are also interested in the consequence of others and of the good stuff for the land and people around them? What are your sort of special thoughts on all of that? What's the thing for well-being, really?
So one, it's your choice of products. Again, another reason why the young living 100% seed to seal guaranteed is because that is all about the value and the quality of the land as well. So as well as the quality of the product. So that's one key thing. So looking at the quality of products that you have in your life in every way. In foods, it's supporting growers and the supply of foods where their value is in putting back into the land and taking care of the land as well. Good water, always having good quality water in your life, keeping your body well hydrated, spending at least an hour a day in nature. Morning is preferable, but I totally get that not everyone's a morning person, so it doesn't necessarily work for them. So, I've found that some of my clients have implemented it at lunchtime. They've found somewhere that's nearby that they can go for a walk, or, they might go and do some Pilates or some yoga or just some mindful, go and do a meditation during that time, or again at the end of the day. It's not advisable to do any active, really intense exercise at the end of the day because it, again, hypes the body up. So it's better to be doing anything more active during the day so that you're giving it that. Not overeating is one of the key things as well. People tend to eat too big of meals and eat too frequently. It's listening to the body when it needs to be fed nutritionally and giving it good nutrition so that you're fueling it and it's using it, and eating less at the end of the night when your body wants to rest and restore, so it's not having to digest. Definitely some sort of regular exercise as well. So the time that you spend in the nature, whether it's walking's one of the key and most inexpensive quality of life things that you can give back to yourself. And most people, even in urban living, can find somewhere nice nearby to be able to walk. There'll be a park, there'll be a beach, there'll be somewhere that you can spend some time just to resonate and connect with nature.